In the fading light of dawn, when the volcanic islands of Indonesia exhale their first breath of heat, something ancient stirs. Through the parched grasslands of Komodo, a shadow moves with deliberate precision. 3 meters of scaled muscle, dragging a body that can weigh as much as a full-grown man. This is no ordinary predator. This is a dragon born not from myth, but from 60 million years of perfection. The Komodo dragon pauses. Its forked tongue flickers outward, tasting the air with an organ so refined it can detect a single molecule of blood from 5 miles away. Somewhere beyond the acacia trees, something is dying. And the dragon knows. The morning sun climbs higher, transforming the landscape into a furnace. Temperatures soar past 100 degrees Fahrenheit, yet the dragon shows no discomfort. Its ancestors walked alongside dinosaurs, and when the Great Extinction came, when the thunder lizards vanished into geological memory, these survivors adapted. They learned to thrive in places where other apex predators would falter. But what makes this creature so extraordinary isn't merely its size or its prehistoric lineage. It's something far more unsettling, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about how predators kill. The Indonesian archipelago stretches across thousands of miles of tropical ocean, a chain of emerald islands born from the violent marriage of tectonic plates. Among these scattered fragments of land, 5 small islands harbor a secret that remained hidden from Western science until 1910. Komodo, Rinca, Flores, Gili Motang, and Padar. Together they form the last stronghold of Earth's largest living lizard. When the first reports reached European scientists, they were dismissed as exaggeration. Tales of land crocodiles, of monitor lizards reaching lengths that seemed biologically impossible. But the stories persisted, carried by pearl divers and local fishermen who spoke of creatures that hunted deer and water buffalo, that moved with serpentine grace despite their massive bulk. The dragon before us represents the culmination of an evolutionary journey that began when the continents themselves wore different faces. DNA analysis reveals that Komodo dragons diverged from their closest relatives approximately 4 million years ago, evolving in isolation on these volcanic islands. Without mammalian competitors, without the great cats or wolves that dominate predatory niches elsewhere, the monitors grew. They specialized. They became something unprecedented. An adult male can exceed 10 feet in length and weigh over 300 pounds. The females, though smaller, are no less formidable. Their bodies are covered in osteoderms, small bones embedded within their skin that function as natural armor. Their legs bow outward in a sprawling gait that seems almost awkward until the dragon accelerates. Then those powerful limbs propel the body forward at speeds approaching 12 miles per hour, fast enough to run down prey in short, explosive bursts. But speed is merely one weapon in an arsenal refined over millions of years. For decades, scientists believed they understood how Komodo dragons killed. The narrative was simple, almost medieval in its brutality. These reptiles, it was said, harbored mouths so filthy with bacteria that a single bite would doom their prey to septic shock. The dragon would bite, then follow its victim for days or weeks, waiting patiently as infections spread through the wound, as fever and weakness brought the animal down. It was a compelling story. It painted the Komodo as a patient executioner, using biological warfare in place of the crushing bite force of crocodiles or the suffocating grip of pythons. But like many simple stories, it was wrong. In 2009, researchers made a discovery that rewrote the Komodo dragon's predatory playbook. Using advanced imaging technology, they examined the skull of a dragon in unprecedented detail. What they found nestled between the teeth changed everything. Venom glands. Complex, sophisticated structures that produce a cocktail of toxic proteins unlike anything else in the natural world. When a Komodo bites, these glands contract, flooding the wound with compounds that prevent blood clotting, drop blood pressure catastrophically, and induce shock. The prey doesn't die from infection. It dies from a highly evolved chemical weapon delivered with surgical precision. Watch as this dragon approaches a water buffalo drinking at a muddy pool. The buffalo outweighs the predator by nearly a ton. Its horns could gore the dragon fatally, yet the dragon shows no hesitation. It approaches from the side, low to the ground, and in a movement almost too quick to follow, strikes. The bite lasts less than a second. The buffalo bellows, kicks, and runs. The dragon doesn't chase. It simply waits. Within minutes, the buffalo's movements become sluggish. The venom is coursing through its bloodstream, attacking its cardiovascular system at a molecular level. Blood pressure plummets. The animal's legs tremble. An hour later, the buffalo collapses. By the time the dragon approaches its fallen prey, death has already begun its work. But the venom is only part of the equation. That famous tongue, constantly flickering in and out, is connected to a sensory organ called the Jacobson's organ. When the tongue touches the roof of the mouth, molecules collected from the air are analyzed with extraordinary sensitivity. A dragon can detect carrion from distances exceeding 6 miles. It can distinguish between the scent of a healthy deer and one weakened by injury or illness. This is precision hunting on a chemical level. The dragon doesn't merely smell. It reads the landscape in molecular detail, constructing a map of every living and dying thing within its territory. Intelligence is difficult to measure in reptiles. Their brains operate on different principles than those of mammals, processing the world through ancient neural pathways that prioritize efficiency over complexity. Yet Komodo dragons display behaviors that suggest something more than simple instinct. In the wild, dragons have been observed using sophisticated hunting strategies that vary based on prey type and environmental conditions. When hunting deer, they often position themselves along game trails, lying motionless for hours beneath the shade of trees, waiting for the precise moment when prey passes within striking range. They understand ambush points. They recognize patterns in animal movement. More remarkably, they modify their tactics. Younger dragons, weighing less than 50 pounds, spend much of their time in trees. Their smaller size makes them vulnerable to cannibalism from larger dragons, and the forest canopy offers both refuge and opportunity. From these elevated positions, juvenile dragons hunt birds, smaller lizards, and the eggs of ground-nesting species. It's a different ecological niche entirely, one that reduces competition with the adults and increases survival rates. As they grow, the dragons descend, transitioning from arboreal hunters to terrestrial apex predators. This ontogenetic niche shift is rare among reptiles and suggests a level of behavioral plasticity that defies simple categorization. But perhaps most fascinating are the documented cases of tool use and problem solving. At feeding stations where park rangers provide supplemental food to prevent dragons from approaching human settlements, individuals have been observed using sticks and other objects to trigger trap mechanisms, accessing food through indirect manipulation of their environment. Some researchers hesitate to call this true tool use, but the behavior is consistent and appears to be learned rather than purely instinctive. The dragon watching the buffalo die is making calculations. How many other dragons detected the same scent? How quickly must it feed before competitors arrive? Should it begin eating immediately, or wait until rigor mortis passes and the meat becomes easier to tear? These aren't conscious thoughts in the way humans experience cognition, but they are decisions, evaluations of risk and reward processed through a neural architecture that has proven devastatingly effective for millions of years. The first dragon to arrive at a carcass doesn't guarantee sole possession. The scent of death travels far in the thin island air, and within hours, sometimes within minutes, other dragons converge. What follows is a hierarchy enforced through size, aggression, and ritualized combat. The largest male typically claims priority, tearing into the carcass with serrated teeth, designed for gripping and ripping rather than chewing. Dragons lack the ability to masticate their food. Instead, they employ a technique called shake feeding, clamping onto flesh and violently thrashing their heads to tear away chunks of meat. The spectacle is primordial, blood soaks the dry earth. Smaller dragons dart in opportunistically, snatching mouthfuls before retreating from the dominant male's slashing claws and whipping tail. The tail itself is a weapon, nearly as long as the body and capable of delivering bone-breaking strikes to rivals or prey. A dragon can consume up to 80% of its own body weight in a single feeding session. The stomach distends grotesquely as massive quantities of meat are swallowed whole. Hooves, horns, hide, bone, everything disappears into that expanding gut. The digestive system is equally impressive, secreting acids strong enough to dissolve bone and extract nutrients from every part of the carcass. After such a meal, a dragon may not need to eat again for weeks. This feast or famine strategy is common among large predators in environments where prey availability fluctuates, but dragons take it to extremes. Their metabolic rate is so efficient that an adult can survive on as few as 12 meals per year. Yet despite this apparent gluttony, despite the violent competition and the displays of dominance, there are rules. Dragons rarely kill each other during these encounters. The ritualized combat that establishes hierarchy involves wrestling, biting, and displays of size. But death is uncommon. Even apex predators benefit from the presence of their own kind. A dragon that dies from injuries sustained in feeding competition cannot pass on its genes. Evolution favors those individuals that can access resources while minimizing lethal conflict. The islands themselves are characters in this story, sculpted by volcanism and isolation into shapes that permitted the dragon's evolution. Komodo Island rises from the Flores Sea, a landscape of scorched grassland interrupted by patches of monsoon forest and framed by volcanic peaks. During the dry season from April to December, the land transforms into something that resembles the African savanna more than tropical Indonesia. Grasses turn golden, water sources dwindle, prey animals cluster around the few remaining pools, and the dragons wait. This is not pristine wilderness untouched by human hands. People have lived alongside these dragons for thousands of years. The villages of Komodo Island maintain an uneasy coexistence with the apex predators that share their home. Children are taught from earliest memory never to wander alone, never to approach the tall grass without adult supervision. Homes are built on stilts, and paths are cleared of vegetation that might conceal a waiting dragon. Fatal attacks on humans are rare, but not unknown. In the past 3 decades, fewer than 30 deaths have been attributed to Komodo dragons, though the true number may be higher in remote areas where deaths go unreported. The dragons show no particular interest in hunting humans, but they are opportunistic. A small child, an elderly person working alone in a field, someone who stumbles and falls within striking range. These situations can trigger a predatory response honed by millions of years of evolution. The Indonesian government established Komodo National Park in 1980, recognizing both the biological significance of these creatures and their potential value as a conservation flagship species. Today, approximately 5,000 dragons inhabit the park and surrounding areas, their population carefully monitored by researchers and park rangers. But the islands are changing. Climate change brings more erratic monsoons, longer droughts. Sea levels rise, gradually reducing the available land area. The deer and wild boar that form the dragon's primary prey face their own pressures from habitat loss and disease. And tourism, while providing crucial funding for conservation, introduces new stresses. Thousands of visitors arrive each year, eager to witness these living fossils in their natural habitat. The dragon pays no attention to such concerns. It feeds until its belly drags the ground, then retreats to the shade of a tamarind tree. Tomorrow it will search for water. Next week, it may travel several miles in search of prey or a mate. Its existence is governed by rhythms older than human civilization, by the simple imperatives of survival and reproduction that have guided life on Earth since the first cells divided in ancient oceans. When the breeding season arrives with the onset of the wet season in May, the dragon's behavior transforms. Males that previously tolerated each other's presence become aggressive, territorial. They seek out elevated vantage points and scrape their claws across the earth, leaving visual and chemical markers that warn rivals away. When two males of comparable size encounter each other, the battle for breeding rights is spectacular. They rear up on their hind legs, grappling like wrestlers, each trying to throw the other to the ground. The matches can last for hours, the combatants locked in a test of strength and endurance. The loser submits by dropping to all fours and retreating. The winner earns the right to court females in that territory. But females are no passive participants in this ancient ritual. A female Komodo dragon is herself a formidable predator, nearly as large as the males and just as capable of delivering a venomous bite. She evaluates potential mates with care, responding only to the most persistent and dominant males. The courtship itself involves elaborate displays. The male approaches with his body low, tongue flickering, scraping his chin against the female's body. If she's receptive, she allows the mating to proceed. If not, she responds with aggression that can drive even the largest male away. What happens next is even more remarkable. The female lays her eggs in burrows excavated into hillsides or in abandoned megapode nests, complex mounds of vegetation that generate heat through decomposition. She deposits between 20 and 30 leathery eggs, then guards the nest site for several months, driving away other dragons that might consume the eggs. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. Female Komodo dragons can reproduce without males. Through a process called parthenogenesis, females can produce viable eggs that develop into offspring containing only the mother's genetic material. These offspring are always male, a quirk of reptilian sex determination that ensures even an isolated female can establish a new population. This ability has profound implications. It suggests that Komodo dragons could potentially colonize new islands through the arrival of a single gravid female. It provides a reproductive insurance policy against population crashes. And it hints at the resilience that allowed these creatures to survive, while so many other large reptiles vanished into extinction. The eggs incubate for 7 to 8 months, buried in the warm earth, developing in darkness. When the hatchlings finally emerge, they are miniature versions of their parents, perfectly formed and immediately independent. They receive no parental care. From the moment they dig themselves out of the nest, they are alone, facing a world filled with predators, including adult dragons that see them as a meal rather than offspring. The tiny dragons, measuring less than a foot in length and weighing mere ounces, immediately flee for the trees. Their survival rate is catastrophically low. Perhaps 1 in 10 will reach maturity, but those that survive carry forward the genetic legacy of the most successful lineage of giant monitors ever to evolve. 60 million years ago, when mammals were still small, furtive creatures scurrying in the shadows of dinosaurs, the ancestors of monitor lizards were already perfecting their predatory craft. They survived the asteroid impact that ended the Cretaceous period. They persisted through the ice ages that shaped and reshaped the planet's climate. They outlasted countless other lineages that flourished and faded. Yet now, in the geological blink of an eye that represents human civilization, the Komodo dragon faces a more uncertain future than at any time in its long history. The International Union for Conservation of Nature lists the species as endangered. The threats are manifold and interconnected. Rising sea levels projected to occur over the next century could reduce the dragon's available habitat by as much as 30%. The volcanic islands that birthed these creatures could become their tomb. Climate change is altering the timing and intensity of monsoons, affecting vegetation patterns and prey availability. More subtle but equally concerning, warming temperatures during egg incubation could skew sex ratios. In many reptile species, the temperature at which eggs develop determines whether they hatch as male or female. If Komodo dragons follow similar patterns, and if temperatures continue to rise, future generations might produce predominantly one sex, creating a demographic crisis. Human encroachment continues despite protected status. Villages expand. Agricultural lands push into dragon habitat. Illegal poaching of deer reduces prey availability. And tourism, despite its benefits, brings risks of disease transmission and behavioral disruption. Perhaps most insidious is the simple mathematics of small populations. With only 5,000 individuals divided among several islands, the dragons lack the genetic diversity that provides resilience against disease and environmental change. A single catastrophic event, a volcanic eruption, a disease outbreak, a tsunami, could devastate a significant portion of the total population. Conservation efforts are intensive and ongoing. Captive breeding programs in zoos around the world maintain a genetic safety net. Researchers continue to study dragon ecology, behavior, and physiology, seeking insights that might inform protection strategies. Park rangers patrol the islands, preventing poaching and monitoring the health of wild populations. But the Komodo dragon's fate ultimately rests on choices made far from these remote Indonesian islands. Decisions about carbon emissions, about sustainable development, about the value we place on preserving Earth's biological heritage. These abstract policy debates will determine whether dragons continue to patrol these volcanic shores a century from now. The sun descends toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and crimson. The dragon lies motionless in the fading warmth, its dark scales absorbing the last heat of the day. Tomorrow, it will hunt again. Tomorrow it will patrol its territory, taste the air for the scent of opportunity, perhaps encounter rivals or mates. But for now, there is only the moment. The lizard brain processes no regrets about the past, no anxiety about the future. There is the temperature of the surrounding air, the fullness of the belly, the approaching darkness that will bring cooler temperatures, and the need to seek shelter. This is existence stripped to its essentials, life lived in the eternal present tense that characterized Earth's fauna for hundreds of millions of years before consciousness and culture complicated the simple equations of survival. What can we learn from a creature so alien to our own experience? What wisdom might be encoded in those ancient genes, that reptilian neurology so different from our own? Perhaps it's the value of patience. The dragon that waits days for prey, that conserves energy through metabolic efficiency, that measures its life in decades rather than years. This is a masterclass in strategic resource allocation. Perhaps it's the importance of specialization. The Komodo dragon is supremely adapted to its particular environment, its specific ecological niche. It cannot survive in Arctic tundra or tropical rainforest, but on these particular volcanic islands, it has achieved a kind of perfection. There is power in knowing your place, in being the absolute best at the one thing that matters. Or perhaps the lesson is about resilience and adaptation. These dragons survived the extinction of the dinosaurs, multiple ice ages, countless environmental upheavals. They evolved novel hunting strategies, developed chemical weapons unlike those of any other predator, learned to reproduce even in the absence of mates. They remind us that life is tenacious, creative, and endlessly inventive in its drive to persist. But there's a darker lesson too, one written in the fossil record. Survival requires more than individual excellence. It requires a viable habitat, sufficient genetic diversity, and an environment that remains within tolerable parameters. The dragons survived asteroid impacts, but they may not survive the cumulative effects of human activity. They endured ice ages, but rising seas and warming temperatures might prove insurmountable. The Komodo dragon doesn't symbolize anything. It doesn't exist as a metaphor or lesson for human benefit. It is simply itself, a product of evolution, a working solution to the problem of apex predation in a specific environment, neither more nor less significant than any other species struggling to persist on a changing planet. Yet we cannot help but see something profound in this living connection to Earth's deep past. When we look at a Komodo dragon, we're glimpsing the world as it existed before primates walked upright, before mammals dominated terrestrial ecosystems, before flowers bloomed or birds sang. We're witnessing a successful experiment that has run uninterrupted for millions of years, and that makes every dragon precious beyond measure. Not because of what it means to us, but because of what it represents in its own right. A unique evolutionary trajectory, a distinct solution to the challenges of life, a lineage that connects the present moment to the deepest roots of the tree of life. The dragon rises as darkness settles over Komodo Island. It moves slowly toward a favored shelter, a crevice between rocks that will retain the day's warmth through the cool night. Its tongue flickers one last time, tasting the evening air. Somewhere in that vast network of scent molecules and chemical signals, perhaps it detects the presence of tourists miles away, huddled in their hotel rooms, discussing the incredible creature they witnessed today. Perhaps it senses the deer that will emerge at dawn to drink at the waterhole. Perhaps it simply processes the background chemical noise of its world, the specific smell of home, of territory, of the volcanic rock and dry grass that have defined the boundaries of its existence. Whatever the dragon perceives, whatever primitive cognition occurs in that ancient brain, one thing is certain: it will be here tomorrow and the day after, continuing the hunt, perpetuating the cycle, embodying 60 million years of evolutionary refinement. The question that should haunt us as we watch this magnificent predator disappear into the darkness is simple. Will it still be here in 60 years? Will our grandchildren's grandchildren have the privilege of witnessing this living piece of prehistory? Or will the Komodo dragon join the long list of species that flourished for millions of years, only to vanish in the geological instant of human civilization? The dragon cannot answer that question. It can only hunt, breed and survive as its ancestors have done since the age of dinosaurs. The answer lies not in the dragon's actions, but in our own. In the gathering night, the monster that smells death settles into its rocky shelter. The pulse slows. The metabolic fire dims. Tomorrow will bring new hunts, new challenges, new opportunities for this apex predator to demonstrate the lethal elegance that evolution has spent millions of years perfecting. For tonight, the dragon rests. The ancient heart beats on, and somewhere in the DNA coiled within every cell, the story of Earth's deep history continues to be written, one generation at a time, in the only language that truly matters: survival.